previous video I suggested that society distracts us away from the reliable happiness of being and induces a futile search for reliable happiness in time. In this second video we'll look at liberation from that cycle. The sequence of events when falling into illusion is being. That's our starting place. Then we get distracted away from that. That produces negative feeling, and so we get involved in remedial seeking to fix that negative feeling, but that seeking produces more negative feeling, which produces more seeking, etc. Those are the main themes, but a more detailed version is in the notes below the video. Therefore, the way to exit the cycle is to 1. Interrupt the habit of submitting to distractions. 2. Stay in touch with feelings. And 3. Scrutinize the seeking process. Note that a distraction is any suggestion of reliable happiness in the future. There's nothing wrong with desires because they are natural. Rather, attachment is the troublemaker, and it is caused by artificial notions of reliability that are impossible to fulfill. Even an underground building that reliably lasts beyond our lifetime won't produce reliable happiness. As per the previous video, reliability is in timeless being, not in time's fleeting forms. Basically, we just get bored with whatever. Even if we get something that's perfectly reliable, we'll just get bored. Eventually, sooner or later. To interrupt the habit of submitting to distractions or hopes of reliability, we just need 2 days of 100% focus, like a pleasant retreat. It helps to have an attitude of openness to life at large and a willingness to get really real. We don't have to act on these, they are just aids for the retreat. Then we can focus on feelings in the body and mind. During the retreat, I think it's best to stay in touch with all feelings exactly to the degree that they are rising, staying, fading, or absent. Don't intensify, diminish, trigger, seek meaning from, rise above, wallow in, or express them. Be with them just as they are because they are natural phenomena. Bruno Mars, who knows everything, he says, "You're amazing just the way you are," and that's the attitude we should have in regard to our feelings. In addition to feeling, we need to see exactly what's happening inside in regards to the seeking process. This will expose the underlying assumptions and immediate results of seeking. To do this, one approach is to simply and accurately describe to yourself the cause and effect of events within. We should experiment in our own way, of course, but generally avoid popular approaches like rejecting beliefs, judgments, or shadow issues, or affirming love, morality, development, or non-duality. After all, we're exploring internal events, not presupposing them. When I did this inquiry, I bought a pocket diary and wrote sentences in the form, "By doing X, I create Y." X is generally an action, a thought, or an avoidance of feeling, and Y can be anything, whatever is triggered. I started with whatever arose, then focused on core interests up until that point. Expect quality to be rough in the beginning because we are exploring new territory. Some examples. By dreaming about that Tesla, I create a sense of lack, which makes me feel bad now, and I waste time on fantasies about how to get the car. Another one, by flirting with that brunette, I become needy and unattractive, and I leak energy. By not feeling boredom, I seek spiritual experiences, which is rejection of now. Last one, by wanting a reliable money source, I delay full involvement with life. Note that if you're not making good progress, you might not have dug down to the real main issues of your life or the main life interests. You might be taking them for granted, or they might be your subconscious motivation for even doing the retreat. Buddha spent years as a spiritual seeker, and it was that core identification that needed balancing. Soon we realize that the main assumption behind seeking is that our efforts will reliably protect or improve our experience. Whether right or wrong, the immediate energetic effect of seeking is that it creates tensions and imbalance, which instantly worsens our experience, thereby triggering further seeking. The two kinds of tension are contracting to resist loss, which causes division within, and stretching to obtain gain, which causes dilution within. That's dilution of energy. So these are real energetic phenomena in the body. Contracting to resist loss, that's like you're like this, and you sort of contract up away from the body, and so that divides between the contracted part and the rest of the energy in the body. So that's the division part. And the stretching to obtain gain is like, you're kind of, oh, I want. So you're looking out beyond the horizon of what to make your dreams come true, and that it actually goes down into the body. That stretching out and that dilution out into the body goes down that way. Sounds weird, but if you go deep enough, you'll experience that that's true. And of course, the contraction weakens us because we've become smaller, and the stretching weakens us because we become diluted. Our energy becomes diluted, thinned out. Having seen the instantaneous pain of seeking, we naturally try opposite strategies. This is good because it helps to balance us, but it's best only to do it briefly and in our imagination. In reality, it soon loses power because it is groundless and creates opposite leaks of energy. For example, my biggest issue was wanting security by finding an enjoyable career. Then I read about trust in some spiritual books. Good old trust is a very popular notion in spiritual books. It felt good, but I soon saw that by supposedly trusting life, I was assuming that things will work out well, and there's no basis for that assumption. And wanting life to work out well is already distrust. And you find that circularity happens with all these strategies, popular psychology strategies and spiritual growth strategies and all that. They all go around in circles and they don't lead anywhere. It's much better to stick with immediate facts. Lastly, we directly notice that it is objectification of an ideal or a compromise that begins the process of leaking energy into illusion. So the optimists will pursue ideals, and pessimists will pursue compromises. It's the reliability that causes attachment, which is the problem. Then we think we can nip it in the bud by focusing on the moment of objectification. But that is repression. As observation becomes more refined, we catch the swing between the opposites of indulgence and repression earlier and earlier until involvement stops. Having fully understood the fall into illusion, everything might feel neutral, and we might judge our state as being flat or boring. That judgment and the implied hope, together with this process itself, is actually the final tension, and it is located in the mind. And that might sound funny to some people that there can be tensions in the mind, but again, as your awareness gets more subtle, more refined, it becomes clear. Seeing that this process itself naturally relaxes as a natural consequence of understanding, rather than being a strategy of surrender. So again, the popular strategy of surrender is just another strategy to gain reliable happiness, which won't work. So it's got to be the consequence of understanding. Furthermore, we might feel vulnerable because we're now detached from the hope of gaining reliable protection or improvement. But if we look closely, we can see that we are more tuned into life at large. And since this detachment is really absence of the immunity illusion, it actually reduces vulnerability because now we are operating in reality. Resolution is happening when we feel realignment of dilutions within and melting of divisions within. Again, this is a real energetic phenomenon, and you'll know it when it happens. All the stories unravel and the previously leaked energy is free to return to its source like gravity. Liberated energy can produce far-out experiences, but the point is liberation, not fascination with new experiences. Indeed, if we no longer imagine reliability anywhere, and if we no longer fall into the energetic cycle of indulgence and repression, but instead act from being, then that constitutes liberation from illusion. It's simply a state of open-mindedness. Of course, the degree to which freedom can be expressed will be influenced by society. In summary, we just need to give 100% focus for a few days, stay in touch with feelings and notice cause and effect within. That will lead to awareness of futile hope and painful tension, and so we will naturally stop seeking. Having developed a kind of X-ray vision into ourselves through this process, we are now more sensitive, and so we notice the key meme in society that creates conflict within and without. And that's the topic for the next video, which is responsibility and innocence. See you then.